Hi, it's Vicky here and welcome to another art journal layout. For my layout today, I'm using one of my favorite techniques, which is cutting off the edges of my pages. As you can see, I'm working on two pages that don't have another project at the back, and I'm using my scissors and fold the edges only at the top and the bottom, and I'm then going to cut them out just with my fingers. I like this technique because the end result is great, since it adds a lot of dimension on my layout, but at the same time I don't have to stick papers on top of it. Now this is a tissue paper. This is a roll by Tim Holtz, and I like this because today's theme is about music, and since there are some notes in this, I'm going to cut out only the parts that I like from this. So once I tear off some pieces here and there, now I'm ready to stick them down on my layout. I'm using gel medium, this is by Ranger, and I'm using it as a glue. A lot of people get confused when I use these little pots, one with gesso and the other with gel medium. Now, as I'm sticking down my pages, just to give you a few tips about this, gel medium looks in the pot white, milky, but it dries totally clear, and I'm using it as a glue. I can use it on top, and you can see that it doesn't color my pages. And gesso is another medium that actually is like a thick white paint. I have a video about gesso, so if you look on my YouTube channel, you will find more info. As you can see, I move on sticking tissue paper on my background. The idea here is to create an interest background, but at the same time I don't want this to be too busy. Tissue paper is a great option to create quickly nice backgrounds. Now, once I'm happy with my background, I'll go on and use some gesso. This is gesso by Faber-Castell, and it's great for gesso washes. So what I'm doing here is covering up my whole layout, and this will push the design more in the background. You can still see the notes at the background, but they are not so vibrant anymore. For coloring my layout, I'll be using Distress Paint by Tim Holtz, and the gesso actually provides a great surface to work on. I'm making sure that everything is dry with my heat gun, and now I'm choosing a couple of colors for my background. I'll go with Peacock Feathers first, and it seems that the last time I've used this color, I didn't put the cap on correctly, so you can see that it leaks out, and now I'm going to create a mess out of it, but no worries, I'll just use all the paint that I have on my hands. And as I clean up my bottle, I'll use everything. I don't want to waste that awesome color. And while I'm fighting with my mess here, just to give you an inside info about me, when I'm crafting, I never wash my brushes, I never wash my stencil, I never leave the crafting room. So baby wipes are always my secret here, and you can see that I am going to clean up my hands with baby wipes, and this is number one reason I love Distress Paint. You can just wipe it off. And no mess, everything is clear now. I never either wash my stencils, I'm too lazy to do that, so I just use my baby wipes, and you can see that later on. Now, I would normally edit this part of my video, but I decided to leave it. After all, I'm a real person and things go wrong on my crafting table all the time. And now that my mess is over, I'm using my heat gun to speed up the process, and now I'll go over with a bit more color just to make it a little bit darker. And finally, I'll be using this Distress Paint. I believe this is Vintage Photo, and I'm going to apply it with a brush and a baby wipe again to make some darker shades, and at the same time my layout will look more interesting and more aged. And at this point I have to remember to screw back the cap of my Distress Paint very tight, since I don't want to have the same issues next time I use Vintage Photo. That cap from the Distress Paint has left a bit of color on my craft mat, and I don't want this to be wasted, so I'll be using my brush here and just add it all around the edges. This will create a nice shading. Remember that Distress Paint dries completely permanent and it doesn't dry too fast, so I have a lot of time to move the ink around and even wipe it off in areas that I think I have put too much with a baby wipe. This is Black Soot Distress ink and I'm going to apply it on the edges. I'm using my round mini blending tool and this will define the edges even more. I am going to apply gesso with my brush all around the outside pages so I can cover up the mess that I have created. These edges, the top and the bottom, will be shown on my final layout. And now it's time to do some stenciling. Here are some stencils from my Tim Holtz stencils collection and I'm just trying to find out which matches my background perfectly. I decided to go with this stencil and I'll be using embossing paint in white color, which I'm going to apply with one of my spatulas. So I'm going to add some texture here and there. This is one of my favorite techniques in art journaling. I think it adds a lot of texture and you can even color your embossing paste with any color you like. And if you ask me, it's one of the must-haves for making an art journal. And check how easy it is to clean up areas that you don't really like, just with your spatula. So I'm going to stop here. It's very easy to overdo it. And once you start with stenciling, you just can't stop it. And you can see that I didn't wash my stencil, I just used a baby wipe. Remember I told you I don't like to leave my craft room while I'm in the process of creating something to go and start washing things. And my background is pretty much finished. I'll go on and start working on my focal points. This is pattern paper and I'm using a pencil to draw the shape of a guitar. Now I'm going to change where I have put the circle there, but in any case this is going to be my guitar shape and I'm cutting it out with my scissors. The pattern paper I've used is from the Cartographer collection from Prima. I'm going to stick the guitar on the edge of my layout. And although the pattern paper that I've used for the guitar adds a bit of texture, I'm going to cover it up with Vintage Photo Distress Paint. So you can see my guitar is now colored. And I'm going to add some Vintage Photo Distress ink on the edges with my blending tool. This is going to make it even darker at the edges, but actually once I'm going to stick it down, you'll see that I'll add even more shading with my big brush markers. So anyway, I'm going all around the edges here, and then I'm going to use my gel medium as a glue to stick it on top of my layout. As always, you can find a full list of all the supplies that I'm using just below the video in the description area of YouTube as well as on my blog. Make sure to visit my blog and you can find everything you are looking for, together with links on online shops. To finish off my guitar, I have a couple more pattern paper pieces to stick on. So I have already punched out a circle from the same pattern paper collection, as well as have cut out a stripe. So I'm going to stick them down with gel medium, make sure that everything is dry, and then I'll go over it with my pit brush markers and add some shading. At this point I'm cutting out the excess paper with my scissors, and now it's time to do the shading. If you haven't watched my videos before, one of the things that I love to do on my layouts is to use my big brush markers by Faber-Castell. These markers are Indian ink, they dry permanent, but you have just a few seconds to move the ink around before it dries on you. You need to make sure that you are working on a non-porous surface to move the ink, or it will not move at all. In my case, I'm working on a non-porous surface because I have used gel medium before all over the guitar. But if I hadn't and I was working directly on paper, I wouldn't be able to do such a shading. At this point, I'm going all around the outside edge of the guitar with my brown marker, and this will actually bind everything together by creating this shadow on the background. And finally, I'm going to stick down the last piece for my guitar, which I'm going to do the same process of sticking it down with a gel medium and then going all over it with my markers. And finally, it's time to add the strings. Since my art journal is more of a mixed media journal, I love to add different textures and mediums on my layout. So I decided to go with thread as strings for my guitar. I have created some holes at the bottom, and now I'm going to thread the strings with a needle. I'm going to secure the string at the back with adhesive tape. I have found that adding different mediums on your layouts really draws the eye there, and when friends of mine browse through my art journal, I have noticed that they always like to touch things that are dimensional and kind of unexpected to find there, like fabric or ribbon or metal pieces, anything that sticks out. I don't like my layouts to be totally flat. At the top and bottom of my layout, where you can see the background pages, I'm going to create a piano. So I'm using this popsicle stick as a ruler actually to draw some lines. These are going to be the piano keys, and I'll do that all over the edges. So you can see the result here, and now I have cut out a strip of paper which I'm going to color black. I'm just using acrylic paint here, and then I'm going to cut it out in small pieces and stick it down with gel medium to complete my piano. Now that the background is ready, I can now stick the top pages on top. So I'm using a gel medium again as a glue. And just to make sure that these pieces are going to stay together until my glue is dry, I'm using some paper clips to hold them together. This is one of my favorite art journals that I have created up to now. I don't know what I love so much. Maybe the theme, maybe the colors. I know everyone loves my stack of teacups, and they are top on my list too. But I think this can take second place easily. So now it's time to add my quote. I'm using Archival ink, and these are happy letters by Hero Arts. This is a stamp set that isn't available anymore. As you can see, it's very difficult to have a great impression when you are stamping on such a bulky art journal. However, I always forget to stamp one letter at a time or 2 letters at a time, and you can see that when you do that, it's easier to press down and have a better impression. Now, this isn't a problem when you don't have a good impression. You can always go back with a marker, just like I did with my word music, and just fill in the gaps. So I'm going to take my time and just stamp the quote here, first with those happy letters by Hero Arts, and later on I'll be using some smaller wooden stamps. And now that my quote is in its place, it's time to add some finishing touches. I'm using my Uniball Signo White gel pen to add some highlights on the letters. I'm doing that on the word music as well as on the word feelings. And now with my Faber-Castell marker, I'm going around the edges of the guitar to define them even more. Also, I'm going to add some highlights. Notice that I'm not going for straight lines there, but more like sketchy ones. Finally, I have used my silhouette to cut out some notes, and I'm going to color them with my marker black and stick them here and there to fill in some gaps on my layout. You can find the file that I've used to cut out those notes in my supply list. I think that I have neglected my silhouette machine, and I think that I should start using it more and more. Using my gel medium as a glue again, I'm going to stick some of those die cuts here and there. I'm not going to use them all, since I don't want to make my layout too busy. But I do need to add just a few finishing touches. So once all those are stick down, I'm going to use my white gel pen again and add some highlights, and I guess my layout is finished. All that's left to do is to stamp the date at the very bottom of my layout. And that was my art journal for today. I hope you had fun and got inspired, and if you did, don't forget to leave me a comment as well as give me thumbs up on my YouTube channel. Also, make sure to subscribe on my blog and be the first to know when I post a new video. Thank you all for watching.